and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Of course, the people that need no introduction, Mr. Jonathan Frakes, Mr. Lamont Burton, Mr. Will Wheaton here. My name is Maurice, I'll be your moderator. We do have a microphone set up, so when we do open the floor up to questions from you folks, if you want to just get in an organized line behind that microphone at that time, and you'll be able to ask your questions.
So for God's sakes, folks, remember, safety first.
Safety first. Push only the women and children out of the way. Well, welcome to Phoenix.
We'll be asking all of you to resign releases before you leave the theater.
Before we get started here, I just wanted to ask you guys, how do you like our fair city?
We'll see you after the game tonight.
Yeah, listen, honestly, Phoenix, listen. Now, hold on. Like, don't make me use my dad voice. When you lose the game tonight, I want you to be gracious and polite, just like we are in Los Angeles. Now, for those of you who might take issue with that, I'd just like to point out that I'm really looking for a new TV, and I would like a new video camera. I'm just putting up my shopping list for the ride.
We're talking smack about the hockey.
Took a shot at the Canes.
I know, you did.
Yeah. How'd that Vancouver jersey feel?
Oh, that Vancouver jersey feels dirty. It feels awful and heavy and shameful. I lost a bet to Aaron Douglas. My friend Aaron Douglas lives in Vancouver, and he is a Canucks fan, like you are if you live there.
Look, Spider-Man's here.
And
Spidey! Always a
I have
pleasure.
to wear a Vancouver Canucks jersey.
Big fan, Spidey.
Guys, I don't think that's the real Spider-Man.
Are you serious?
I'm pretty sure. I'm just saying.
Never mind.
Stick around anyway.
Good house.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, before we get started with questions, is there anything in particular you'd like to get off your minds? Anything you want to tell the fans? Anything you'd like to announce? Or
I'd like to just say for the record that I've never met the man to my right, and anything that he said that might possibly have been interpreted as a slur against your local basketball franchise. I'd like to go on record as officially having disavowed.
I won't say we knew him before he could grow a beard.
Right.
It's true. I've actually been growing this since I last saw you.
And it's coming along nicely.
Thank you. I think maybe another 5 or 6 years. You know,
It's very
I might
carrying.
upgrade it from action figure beard to like Unabomber beard.
Eventually the beard could have its own action figure.
It might. With a kung fu grip.
so, what are you gentlemen working on right now? What can we expect to see you in soon?
I just finished shooting the funniest television show I have worked on since Star Trek: The Next Generation. Which you know is
Oh, hilarious Star Trek: The Next Generation. Wonderful musical.
this show, the stuff that
I
is
asked if it was open and
filmed,
you said yes.
is the way it was
No,
between
wrong
the
question.
shows.
Okay, sorry.
That never happens. That rarely happens.
It's called The Good Guys. It stars Bradley Whitford and Colin Hanks. And it was very, very funny.
Is that Colin Hanks, the son of the elder Tom Hanks?
The very same. And he's really sick of answering questions about that.
I just wrapped season 4 of The Guild. And just before that, an episode of Eureka.
Eventually you become a fairly regular fixture.
Big Bang, dude. Big Bang Theory.
I'm not gonna lie to you, that's the most awesome thing in the whole world. It rules so much.
And you play the evil.
I play the evil Will Wheaton.
The evil Will Wheaton.
Yeah, that's a real stretch.
I learned it by watching you, Frakes.
It's like lore.
Exactly.
Who would have ever thought Brett could play lore?
Right? Or Zoom,
Or Zoom.
for that matter. Yeah.
At least you guys didn't have to sit next to him at the front of the bridge for 5 seasons like I did. You never know who you're talking to. Who are you going to get?
I did a year and then I got fed up and left. I went down to engineering.
Yeah. We all envied you. We all envied you that you got to work in engineering. It was great. You came in for, maybe 2 days.
Yeah,
collected a week's pay.
Your chair moved. It did. It did. It's like riding a bicycle. You never lose it.
This is the first time I've actually been on the stage with a fellow Starship driver. I have never shared the stage with someone who's also driven a Starship.
And how does it feel?
It feels pretty good.
Who's the better pilot?
It feels like we could probably talk in a shorthand that no one would understand or care about.
You wouldn't consider being on stage with Marina being on stage with somebody who could drive the spaceship.
I don't think so.
She crashed the ship the one time we let her drive, did she?
Yeah,
That was a huge
that's a
mistake.
bad idea.
Right into a planet, as I recall.
That didn't work.
Skeet, 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 skeet.
I anticipated that using my magical powers of space-time bending and got off the ship before it happened.
That's why they called you the boy genius.
Yes, you were the boy genius.
Nobody listened to me.
The beloved Wesley Crusher.
In what bubble universe are you?
Who violated the space-time continuum. Continually.
Continue.
Over and over again.
Again.
All yours, man.
Well, honestly,
Oh, you're still
Wait,
here!
wait, wait, stop here. You gotta jump-
it's like we're having
Now
sex.
you know what it was like to try to direct us in the first 2 seasons.
We'd completely forgotten about you. Sorry.
I'm used to it. Honestly, I would rather let you guys talk about anything you want to talk about or open it up immediately to the floor. And the reason why is you guys have been around, been to these conventions. There's not a single question I can think of that you probably haven't been asked 100 million times.
To what do you attribute the enduring interest in the Star Trek universe?
It's a good question. I've never heard that before.
That's a good question.
That's a poser. That one.
Yeah, most of the questions I would have are more like locker room talk and probably not appropriate for this audience. But I think probably the audience may have some questions, things that they may not have heard the answers to, or new questions. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask?
What's Patrick Stewart really like?
You mean when he's not drinking?
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I find that he's a much more gentle actor when he's been drinking.
It's because you were a minor.
What was the funniest practical joke that ever was taking place on the bridge of the Enterprise?
I'd have to say Michael Dorn hiding Brenda Baki in his trailer.
For years.
Yeah, that was a good.
That was a good. I mean, not necessarily funny to Brenda, you understand.
Very
When
funny
he
to
cracked
us.
the egg on Patrick's head.
That was nice. That was a good day too.
That was fun.
That was funny.
Okay, it's all yours.
Oh, it's all me. I'm just a spectator here.
What was your favorite episode?
Well, my favorite episode to watch is The Inner Light. A close second would be Tapestry.
Wait. Inner Light. That was the one where Patrick played the flute, right?
That's right.
Nice.
I hated that episode. Did you? Really? That's because you're not a nerd. I love that because I'm a nerd.
What do you mean I'm not a nerd?
You're not a nerd like I'm a nerd, Jonathan Frakes.
Truer words were never spoken.
I love that episode. I love the idea that you could live an entire lifetime in the blink of an eye and all the people around you wouldn't be aware of it.
Exactly 48 minutes of screen time.
I know.
Let me
An
ask
entire
you-
lifetime in 48 minutes.
Well, now that I've got you here, I don't know if it's a good time, but did you understand yesterday's Enterprise?
Well, yes.
Yeah,
You are a nerd.
you are. Because you live in the geekosphere.
I do.
On the vein of being a nerd, one of the things,
Are you a nerd?
I have lightsabers on my wall, pal.
His name is Maurice.
Yeah. You can't go through life being named Maurice and not be black, French, or gay. So.
No stranger to an ass woman, Maurice.
My question is this. I've been a huge sci-fi fan my entire life. But a lot of people that work in sci-fi movies and sci-fi television programs may not necessarily be science fiction fans. Now, in working with this, did you find yourself becoming more interested or more aware of the space program, nerdy, sciencey stuff like that, or were you as ambivalent as you were before?
Are you talking to me?
All of them.
I was a huge Star Trek fan before it even began production on Next Generation. And I was beside myself. And getting to walk through stage 9, in the first season, our bridge was on stage 6, and all of the other sets were on stage 9, with the exception of Planet Hell, that none of us ever liked. I mean, if I can just speak for all of us in that regard.
Please.
Getting to walk through those corridors for the first time and see them lit up, and walk into engineering and see the engine going.
Oh, you mean with the dilithium crystals in it?
That's right, exactly. Well, the dilithium crystals are responsible for regulating the intermixing of matter and antimatter. But that's really LeVar's place, not mine.
It was LeVar's place. Is there a reason that this ship could never go beyond 9.9?
Warp 9.9?
Yeah.
I think when you go beyond warp 9.9, you explode.
The show actually becomes according to Jim.
Let me defer to the expert at the table, Will.
The show becomes according to Jim. And nobody wants that.
Well said.
Yeah, that's science, guys.
That's the way it works. You know science.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So I was a huge fan, and I loved it. And I loved getting to work with all these guys. And because I was a kid, I was sort of able to, I was closer to, I think, playing Star Trek on the playground, maybe, than you guys were. At least, before the restraining orders. But it was actually very important to me.
It's not often that I'm the third funniest guy on the panel.
I hired some writers. We've been working stuff out. We were on retreat.
Yes, David.
So, because you obviously were always a fan, were you always into sci-fi, Mr. Franks?
I'd be lying if I told you I even understood what Star Trek was before I was blessed with the job. I learned fast, however. I went out and trained myself. And I'm a huge fan, obviously, now, and very grateful, but I come from a different world.
Pennsylvania.
How about you, Mr. Berg? Were you always a sci-fi fan?
I am with Bill Wheaton on this issue. I was a huge fan of the original series. Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future was one where people of color were actually present, and that meant a lot to me as a kid. And on the bridge.
Taking that all into account, how do you feel now that we're, our nation's in this having financial problems and we're cutting back on our manned space program? Do you think that's cool, or do you think that's a tough decision we had to make, or would you like to see more manned missions in real life?
I think that's a huge question.
But in one you haven't had, right? I'll take any credit I can get.
I think we're going to go back to the moon.
Yeah. Well,
Is it a money thing?
I think we spent a little bit too much of our resources on fighting.
Yes.
Not enough left in the coffers for education and exploration.
You have a huge background with Reading Rainbow and being involved in education. Education is clearly something that
Butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book. A reading rainbow.
I've been around that before.
passion for education, and then being blessed enough to work in a science fiction serial that also, encourages people to be educated. I mean, it's all about science. It's all about exploration. So, what do you think we're missing in the realm of sci-fi, where we don't seem to encourage that? It's more about monsters than it is about passion for exploration.
I think there's room in the science fiction universe for all of these things. I think there's plenty of inspirational science fiction in the lexicon these days. Even when it has a dark vision, it can still be inspirational. This is a journey that we're all on. We're all on it together. And science fiction tends to be that body of literature that sort of leads us on the way through this journey that we're all sharing. So I think there's room for all of it, but there's only one Star Trek.
Mr. Frakes, you've done a lot of directing. You've directed some of my favorite episodes, and
He's one of the best directors in the world.
What lessons from Star Trek have you applied to directing that you didn't learn anywhere else?
What lessons from Star Trek?
In working on Star Trek, maybe things other directors did, or experiences you had, or difficulties you had that when you became a director you were able to
Like
apply.
dealing with an entire cast that's drunk, for example. I mean, just to pull something out of thin air that I made up.
There's a lot to be said for having your friends look back at you when you're making the leap. Did you say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
LeVar and I started out sort of checking each other out. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. We can go on now.
You were the first, man.
But you look at I used to look at LeVar, and I used to look at Patrick and make sure that we had agreed that what we've gotten was what we wanted. And now I trust my own instincts more, but in the beginning, we were all mishpucha. We were in this together.
You've probably taken the rules of acting along with you on your journey as a director, have you not?
The rules of acting.
First rule of acting,
Live in the moment.
live in the moment. Second rule of acting, remember your lines. Third rule of acting, don't bump into the furniture.
They still work. Yeah. Make sure your shoes fit.
How about for you? What lessons from Star Trek for you guys have you taken and applied in other, maybe unexpected avenues of, like other experiences that you've had?
Star Trek was such an ensemble show, and I was a kid when I worked on Star Trek, and because I was a kid, I had the limitations that kids have.
No car.
Until I got my better than Patrick Stewart's Honda Prelude SI4WS, you mean?
That's what I'm thinking.
I wasn't really able to fully appreciate the experience that I had, because I was sort of struggling with, being a teenager and feeling like I could relate to all of these guys professionally, but not on the personal level that I so desperately wanted to. I just felt like I wasn't cool enough and I wasn't smart enough, and I cherished those times when we got to do scenes together that I felt were well written, and scenes where I got to do more than, hey guys, look, if you push the red button on the repulsor beam, it's going to emit an inverse neutrino pulse into the heart of the anomaly, and then we're going to send nanites off to a tachyon farm. One of the things that I completely took for granted when we worked on Next Generation is being in a cast that loves each other, and being on a set that's really happy to be there. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, John, maybe 10 years ago, I saw you somewhere and I asked you, the way that I remember it is that we loved each other.
Yes.
And the way that I remember it is that we had fun together, and we looked forward to work every day. And we felt like we were doing something cool. Is that really the way it was?
I do remember.
Or is that just, my memory? And you said to me, that's the way it was, man. We had lightning in a bottle.
Yep.
And when I work on a show that has something like that, Eureka's like that, Big Bang Theory's like that, I'm really grateful for it.
We were blessed.
If I've taken anything away from the experience, it's that Because I have not had that same experience duplicated anywhere else in my career since, and I'm always cognizant of now being truly appreciative of the moments, because those were some of the best 7 years I could ever think of having. And when you're in the middle of it, you think it's going to last forever.
Yeah.
And you look up and the experience is over, and you have your memories to look back on. But I'm really, really appreciative of the moments now. Just knowing when you have a good moment, cherish it, because it may not come again.
You know, I saw this website where someone...
Well, that was depressing, wasn't it?
It was actually emotional.
Okay.
I felt,
It was very tender. I was moved.
Were you? That's Maurice.
I saw a website where someone had scanned a ton of, like, kind of behind-the-scenes publicity photos that they took during the first few years of production. And there's like maybe 8 pages of these black and white photos from stage 6 and stage 9. And I remember sitting down at my desk in my office maybe 5 or 6 months ago looking at these. And by the time I was through it, I was weeping. Because like these moments, it's different from watching the show. When I watch the show now, I remember the stuff that went on when we made it, and I remember the, you know, like what that episode was about, and what that guest star was like, and things like that. But these were like our private moments. These were us between scenes, and I can see like just the, like, you know, you guys looking at each other, and like this. And I'm not in a lot of these pictures, but the ones that I am, I clearly remember. Well, because I go to school and stuff. Like I just didn't get to be there that much.
We didn't like you all that.
I know. I was throwing off the cool curve all over the place, and I feel bad about it.
No, that's not true. You know how we feel about you.
But getting to look at that stuff and see that all again, it was this view back into that amazing time that I just don't get to take that often.
So, what moments that might lead to mind back in those lightning in a bottle years? That maybe at the time you didn't appreciate that moment. Maybe at the time it was a little difficult. But now you look back and you have a fond memory of that struggle or that obstacle.
Anytime Jonathan took the microphone, the imaginary microphone, to sing Volaria was always a good moment.
Best moments ever.
Are you a crooner, sir?
I've been... Magical singing moment that I think you may remember. When Denise Crosby used to play Lieutenant Natasha Pookie Yar, made the spectacular career choice to leave the show. Gene Roddenberry wrote a beautiful episode in which she died and we mourned her death, and it was art imitating life because we didn't want Denise to leave because she was a member of the same family that Will and LeVar just referred to. And we were very sad as characters, and we were very sad as people. And Patrick came through the holodeck door onto the grassy knoll in which she was being buried, if you recall, and sang, "The Hill!"
And twirled when he got to the top of the hill. His arms fully extended.
Sort of a Nancy kind of English twirl.
Very Nancy, as I recall.
But such commitment.
And he hadn't even been drinking.
Going back to, you mentioned some guest stars and what guest stars were like. Do any guest stars strike you? I don't want you to get yourself in trouble by revealing who was a complete jerk that you might have to work with.
Mick Fleetwood was a fish from Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah?
That was cool. Michelle Phillips was somebody alien.
The late, great, and talented Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons.
Oscar winning.
Yes.
John Tesh played a Klingon.
True.
Tesh
played a Klingon?
Yeah.
Both Madge Sinclair, the woman who played Kunta's wife in Roots, played my mother, and the fabulously talented Ben Vereen played my father in Star Trek. Those were great moments.
I had a really great time working with Robbie McNeil, who went on to be on Voyager, because it was the one and the first and last time I spent the majority of an episode with people that were about my own age, and it was the first time that those the personal and professional kind of like we can hang out together kind of things melded together.
Was that on the planet with the people who were into like having sex all the time?
No, that would have been the first season Craptacular Justice, where they clothed the entire planet in 16 yards of fabric. That's the episode. Listen, this is a wonderful story. This is an episode where Picard violates the Prime Directive by bringing the leader of the planet back to his quarters to show her God, because God is outside the ship, and it's a wonderful homage to the original series, because every time Captain Kirk would bring a girl back to the ship, he would show her God.
You can sort of see that one coming.
I think the first few million miles on the Enterprise were probably in Kirk's bed, right? So, did you ever meet anybody that worked on the show that maybe was either a longtime hero, somebody who was like, oh, I can't believe I'm getting the opportunity to work with this person, it was a wonderful opportunity, or perhaps somebody you worked with that completely violated your expectations, either they were meaner or much nicer than you expected them to be?
Did an episode called Relics with Jimmy Doohan. Does that count?
Yeah, that was pretty
awesome. Who would you like to work with that you have not yet had the opportunity to work with?
On Star Trek?
I'd like to work with the guy that built the time machine that let us go back to work on Star Trek. That's the guy.
Yeah, let's talk to him. How cool was it when Stephen Hawking was on the show?
That was cool. That was cool. Thank you.
That got my geek meter going.
Yeah.
See, you're a little geek in there. You got
I
some
have a
geek.
little geek in me.
Right on.
He was awesome.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. All my friends, we were pretty stoked. It was a pretty
Well, he
epic moment.
said to us through his wonderful communication device, between solving quantum physics problems, I like to sneak in the occasional TV guest star. Stephen Hawking. How cool is that?
That is pretty nice.
Yeah.
He has a little no collar, didn't he?
Yeah. It's just awesome.
So, who surprised you working on the show that turned out that they would have always been a Trekkie deep down, and maybe they'd never had an opportunity to work in the franchise in any way?
Well,
and it blew you away just how into Star Trek they were.
I actually heard this from Brent recently. That we knew that Whoopi Goldberg was a huge fan of Star Trek and really wanted to come and be part of the cast of Next Generation. And Brent told me that he thought that Whoopi asking to join the show when she did actually extended the life of the series. Mm-hmm. That we may not have gotten that like push through. The first season of Next Generation is just kind of struggling to find our way and figure out like kind of we're all getting to know our characters, we're all getting to know each other. The writers are figuring us out, and by the time Whoopi came along, it was like she was the biggest star in the world at that time. And Brent said that he sort of thought that like because she was such a huge Star Trek fan and would bring an audience that it helped extend us and give us like a push to let us sort of work out, continue the shakedown cruise.
That's pretty cool, right on. Kudos for Whoopi Goldberg. So, which guest star, which celebrity that worked on the show just didn't get it? Just like had the hardest time with maybe the gobbledygook Tekkenese that they make you speak, just had the hardest time wrapping their head around it. No fair whispering in
I
answers.
don't think that.
So on the advice of my
I
attorney.
don't think this is the room. That question.
Right.
We would be remiss, however, if we didn't mention Delancey in Discovery.
Yes.
Or Dwight Schultz.
Or Dwight Schultz. Or Colombini, who began as a guest star on Next Gen.
Yeah, Dwight Schultz now with the A-Team movie coming out. It's weird. He's going to have two cult followings, I guess, following him around. What opportunities has Star Trek given you, or taken you to projects that you never thought you would pursue? Like, I never, in your wildest dreams, would you imagine you'd be involved in some kind of project, but Star Trek led to it.
It's been more the opposite.
More the opposite, really?
Trying to get out of the pigeonhole that Star Trek flew us into.
Well, what would you say is the one of the most frustrating times that you had to deal with that typecasting that has plagued so many people in the franchise?
I think you're missing the point. I don't know. Maybe I can speak for the three of us. Star Trek was the project that I never thought I would ever have an opportunity to be a part of. That was the good one.
Yeah. I stand corrected.
The thing about Star Trek is that Star Trek is not just a TV show. You know, I mean, there's lots of shows that are on right now that have been on for a long time, but like even incredibly popular television shows now are never going to have the cultural, societal impact that the Star Trek world, from the original series all the way through to the end, managed to have on the world. I meet people all the time now. I'm 37, and I meet people who are a little bit younger than me, who grew up watching Next Generation. They're engineers, they're scientists, they're doctors. They wanted to be Wesley Crusher so that they could be on a spaceship and be as smart as the adults. And they went to engineering school, and they went into grad school, and they became physicists so that they could do those sorts of things. Like, a TV show did that. That's amazing.
Take that, Lost.
Terry O'Quinn.
Terry O'Quinn was the guest star in a little-known episode called Pegasus. Which,
Nice poll.
yeah, you were featured very prominently in that episode.
I remember it well.
Terry O'Quinn went toe-to-toe, as I recall.
So, getting more Trek specific, if I may, which alien costuming, I mean, the makeup just was the scariest. Like, I don't know if you ever had to wear any of it for any reason, but when you saw people dressed up as aliens, which one did you just see them getting geared up and I don't ever want
Did you ever see Marina and Gates before makeup at 6 o'clock?
Nope.
I have never met the man to my left. I just like to disavow any association, anything that you may have said.
It was awfully funny, though.
The first time I met Michael Dorn out of makeup, I didn't recognize him because he was always at work before us and
after us.
And this dude was like walking up to me like, "Hey, Will, what's going on?" I'm like, "Who the hell are you?"
I think it was tough being a Borg. That was a rough duty. 2:30 a.m., 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right? Then all that assimilating you have to do before
All that
that.
assimilating.
What time?
Tough being a Kardashian. That was an early call. Turtlehead always had an early call.
Early calls.
Very early calls for Klingons.
Yeah, I guess the Bajorans got out pretty easy with that little nose ridge.
Yeah, stinking with the nose.
And an earring. What the fuck is that?
It was good to be human, wasn't it?
So what time did you usually begin your filming day? I mean, if you're a human cast member, you have to be there early for special reasons. What time did they usually get you started?
We started shooting at 7.
Yeah, 7 a.m.?
Dorn was in there by 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And girls were in there at, midnight the night before.
I've never met the man 2 seats to my left. I would like to disavow any knowledge of anything he may have said.
Lady was in there getting painted about 5.
Yeah, Brent had to be painted gold.
Having his rye toast.
Yep.
Lavarian cereal with apple juice on it. Turn Patrick onto it. Patrick likes 2 tea bags.
Easy,
Things
easy,
like
easy.
this.
You know who you are. All right. It's not a Rule 34 kind of room. I think we should open the floor to questions from the
I
audience.
was about to make the same suggestion. Does anybody have any questions? Step up to the microphone if you'd like to ask.
Thank God.
Okay, really quickly, I want to say that the episode of Reading Rainbow where you went on the cast of Star Trek Next Generation was the awesomest episode ever.
The Bionic Bunny Show. That was the name of the book, The Bionic Bunny Show. where the very visual Rob Legato showed us how we made the transporter effect. You recall it was a bowl of water and
sparkles.
glitter.
It was awesome. But I really wanted to ask, I was watching the other day, and I was suddenly realized it was the episode The Outrageous Akana. And one of the nobody actresses that, back then she didn't even have a credit, was Terry Hatcher. And I was like, is that Terry Hatcher?
She does?
Yes, and you know who played the outrageous
Wait,
Akana?
she denies?
She denies
What the
having
hell?
ever been on the show, as does the sister of the singer.
Wait, how could you?
Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd and Terry.
That's
Hatcher.
right, because Uncle Willie wrecked her.
Wasn't Billy Campbell the outrageous Akana?
He was. He was really nice to me.
Yes.
Yeah. He was really nice to me.
He was Riker too.
He was.
He was the after the 7 weeks of auditioning, we were the two left standing. There's a little
You went to Paramount Thunderdome and.
Anyway, could you think of any other actors or actresses who were like nothing when they
Third
first...
question.
I love this. Anyway, you guys can stop talking. It would be awesome.
When they first came on the show, they were just no one. Can you think of anyone else?
Me? LeVar was the only famous person on the show when the show started.
You had done Stand By Me.
I had.
You had.
But I was filled with Park Burton. I mean, come on.
You would know Clifton.
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody seen Roots?
Anybody seen the Ron LaFleur story?
A little known gem. How about North and South? The fabulous miniseries. Most commonly known for putting you and Jeannie Francis in the same city, long enough to fall in love.
I was wondering where you were going.
Bare essence.
You have any questions?
Yes, thank you for coming to Phoenix. And my question is, tell us about Gene Roddenberry and Major Barrett and your recollections of having known them.
Gene Roddenberry, I'll tell a little Roddenberry story for you. I referenced the fact that it did, in fact, take 7 auditions over 6 weeks before I was finally cast in the role that has changed my life. And the last 3 or 4 auditions were for different executives at Paramount who needed to sign off on who was going to be in the cast, and most of the cast had been assembled by this point. And Roddenberry, who had sort of taken me under his wing, his great space bird wing by this point, had said, before each of these auditions, come to my office, and we'll prepare you with Corey Allen, who was the director of the pilot. And Roddenberry so believed that the 24th century was going to be a place in which there would be no hunger and no greed, and all the children would know how to read. And he used to say this to me, and he made me believe in what he believed, which I believe made me right. He was incredible. Majel Barrett was hysterical.
So funny.
As Marine's mother. That was the most brilliant casting.
I remember feeling like, wait, the boss's wife is coming to work on the show? What's that going to be like? And it was about 15 minutes was about how long that lasted. And I remember that we all just so looked forward to her coming to be on the set.
And she brought with her Carl Stryker.
Yes.
Right.
Who we always look forward to.
Yeah.
Sir, you had a question?
I want to start off just confirming what Will and LeVar have been saying. I started off as a Star Trek nerd when I was 4, watching your show, and especially reading Rainbow as well. I'm now a biology teacher on my way to getting maybe my master's and PhD in the next few years. So thank you for... Save your applause. Thank you for inspiring me with your superheroic nerdiness, and LeVar especially for encouraging me to read more than I already did. Anyway, my girlfriend and I are now going through Next Generation, and again, beginning to end. And watching it again, I noticed a lot more interesting details, like, and this is focused on our writer here. In the first 5 minutes of the episode, depending on how wide your eyes on, I can tell exactly who you are going to writer that episode. And I think you know what I mean.
It's a verb now.
It is. It's a verb.
Yes.
It's official. No, but the thing I really want to point out, I've been doing Shaolin
Go
Kung
back.
Fu.
Well, what is to write?
It's either to successfully or unsuccessfully attempt to mate with the female you've just met.
Used in a sentence, I Rikered the hell out of that. He's Rikered?
It was Riker who said to the two Klingon women when he was serving on the ship, one or both. They did call him Picard's Big Willie. Wild Bill Riker.
I had to get it in.
But I digress.
Is there a question?
Yes, there is. This is the real question. Serious question, actually. I've been doing martial arts the last couple of years. I've been watching this show again, noticing, of course, Worf's version of Tai Chi, a little bit of Judo. But the one thing I can't quite place with any martial arts I've ever seen is the two-handed golf swing. I just want to know who introduced that into the show, and is it effective in street fighting? Will, Jonathan, I know you can answer this one. When you go up to someone with two hands like this and go right up under the chin, does that really work in real life? It seemed to always come out in all these bar fights and people with alien parasites making them super strong.
Are you suggesting that there may have been something on Star Trek that was created for dramatic entertainment that is not directly tied into something that exists in reality? Say good day, sir.
I don't know who came up with that. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, by the way. I almost feel guilty coming up with a serious acting type question for you.
You have to find serious actors. You must be at the wrong panel.
John Schneider is somewhere in the middle. I love John Schneider. He's a serious actor. And there's Shakespeare, and then there's Dukes of Hazzard, okay? I'm serious!
It's all the Dukes of Hazzard before.
Wait, were you really on the Dukes of Hazzard? You were really on the Dukes of Hazzard?
I married Daisy Duke. I played Jamie Lee Hall all over Dog Patch.
He totally Rikered her, man.
Shades of Grey.
I think this panel has revealed some interesting things about all that.
Truths that have come to light this afternoon that probably should have stayed secret.
You sure you wouldn't go down that road, that serious acting question road?
Yeah, actually, it's probably even better for you now.
Give it a shot.
Well,
First of all, I'm the second best actor in my own house. So.
Hey, I'm an old General Hospital fan, so yes, I watched your wife before you. but you're still better than Luke.
Yours less curly.
Being in a part like that for such an extended period of time, and Encounter at Farpoint was just on cable again in the last week or so, and Riker was obviously, for one, very different in that
Thinner,
episode.
younger.
More hair.
How much
Stiffer.
during the,
Humorless.
yeah, okay. How much during the
What
course
a
of something
square
like
jawed.
Yeah, okay, so you did John Wayne in space. Anyway,
John Cullen, not John Wayne. Fine tuning him.
during the course of it, of something like that, how much does it wind up being a little bit more of you in the character, or does the character start to influence you?
Played the trombone. Like alien women. Hate my spacesuit.
Did you have a question, sir? After my questions, I'm very accustomed to the awkward silence that follows them.
How's it going? My name is James Leatherman. I'm actually a local actor here. And if you didn't realize this, but Phoenix is one of the real hotbeds of acting talent and filming talent. We've got the Phoenix Film Festival. We've got some local people here, local theaters. They're just absolutely incredible. Yes, please. I see some of them out there right now. So, it's another acting question. I'm sorry about that. But when you're in a situation like this where you've got so many talented people around you, and you love them so much, you want to work with them, what is the draw to go to Los Angeles? I mean, what is it exactly that you wouldn't be able to accomplish here that you can accomplish there outside of just the vast number of auditions? What is it you're looking for when you go to LA that you can't get in Phoenix?
You can't go to the beach here.
Listen, very seriously, Los Angeles is where the film and television industry is headquartered. I mean, that's just where it is. And if it's what you want to do with your life professionally, you have to go there. I mean, you have
to go there to be sent away.
Yeah.
And go work out of town and out of the country.
Right, and you have to go there so you can go to Vancouver. And that's just how it works.
However, if you found an acting family right here in Phoenix, and this is where your heart is, then, my God, you have hit the jackpot, sir.
Yeah, to be able to be an actor and not have to live in Los Angeles is kind of my dream.
So are you guys available?
The one thing Los Angeles needs no more of.
People.
Actors.
No, just people. People would get to LA. It'd be great if half of them would leave.
I'm actually going to be a little bit of a jerk, and I'm going to try and scoot everybody along a little bit. We have quite a long line. I didn't see anybody lining up before in front of the mic, so I didn't know how many questions we'd have. Please go ahead, sir.
This question is for Jonathan Frakes. Was it meant to be, or did it just happen that you always looked skeptical as Commander Riker during every single episode?
It just happened. That's why I could never get any commercials.
We're also a skeptical spokesperson for their product.
But it did make me the official spokesperson for the paranormal.
Good evening. Which is the last place you'd expect a skeptic to be.
Next.
Hello, guys.
Helping out here.
Huge honor.
Use it
Huge
as
honor. One quick one for each of you. 2 Rikers, amazing episode. Would you say that was the...
That was Lamar Burton directed that
Was
episode.
that really? Was that the
Second chances? I love second chances.
You were matched with...
All fights all the time. How could you go wrong?
Twice as much.
My next one's for you. So, would you say that's the only time in the show, and perhaps your entire career, that you were matched in acting ability?
Marina always said that she thought that Thomas Riker was much cuter than Will Riker.
Lamar, do you remember in Reading Rainbow when you went to the Crayon Factory? Because everyone in my generation remembers that as like the trippiest thing ever, and can I get that on DVD somewhere? And Will Wheaton, seriously, it took like 30 minutes into this to mention Ashley Judd. What really happened there?
I would never tell.
He told me he totally Riker.
Rule 34.
And I really am Spider-Man. He actually stole part of my question, so I'm going to make this even faster. I do want to say thank you, LeVar, for reading Rainbow. I read that, I saw that as a kid constantly, and now I actually graduated with a PhD in children's literature. I write and I'm a feature writer, and I review children's books constantly. So, quick question for all three of you. What do you think your favorite outtake was in Star Trek? I mean, you've given so many good behind-the-scenes stories, so if any of you have a favorite, outtake.
My favorite thing ever is the very first time I remember any of us walking into turbolift doors and they didn't open, and it was Johnny. the back turbolift and the upstage right on the bridge, and the scene goes on, and you just hear thud, crash, and then from back in the turbolift, like just slightly muffled, shit. It was in the first season. I don't know how long it was. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was in the first season some point. It was awesome.
Thanks, Spidey. We're going to keep this line moving so we get as many people in here as possible.
We're out of here. You guys want to come back?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great idea. Show of hands, who's coming back to get autographs at the table in the other hall? Wow. Okay. All right. So we'll be there signing for another half an hour or so after this. Sorry, Harvey. Go.
This one's for LeVar. I was wondering about the visor. Like, do you still have that?
Yes. It is in the original prop box that Charlie Russo handed to me every time we put the visor on, and I'm determined that it will. And by the way, there's a visor being sold someplace, and they are touting it as one that I wore, and it's simply not true. The one that I wore, I've got, and it's going to put my kid through college.
It was a very interesting experience to watch the visor being put on, because it didn't go simply or easily. It was literally screwed into LeVar's head. It was screwed until it was tight enough to stay on nuts.
One of these days I'll bring the visor and I'll show you guys.
It wasn't pretty. Then he lost his peripheral vision. We got
those little blinking lights on the side of your temples, how did those go on there?
Magnets. They are magnetized. I like to be able to say I'm just that talented enough to cause lights to blink on the side of my head. I'd only be lying.
You had a question, Miss?
Like, real quick, thank you, all three of you, for everything you've done, even since Star Trek Next Generation, Mr. Frakes with the directing, LeVar with Reading Rainbow, and Will with the Folks, and the Guild Season 4. My question is, in that 7 years that you spent working on Star Trek The Next Generation, what is that one lesson that each of you have learned that you carry with you through everything you do? What was that one lesson that sticks out in your mind that you always come back to?
For me, it's the third rule of acting. Don't bump into the furniture.
Live each day as if it's your last.
Yeah, take nothing for granted.
Yeah. Thank you.
And the chowder at the commissary on Fridays is generally pretty good.
Two quick questions. One for Jonathan. Did you enjoy doing the voiceover for David Xanatos in Gargoyles?
Fabulous job. I wish it was still on the air.
And then the second one is, out of all three of you, who are the best pilots in terms of captaining a starship?
I didn't even know how it worked. All I used to do was yell red alert. All kinds of shit happened.
I actually taught myself actual command sequences that I made up for put the ship to warp speed.
So did LeVar, man. LeVar did that before you did that. LeVar had those beautiful hands working the dials, and you could tell the sequence he was He didn't randomly tap away at that console, I can tell you right now.
Jonathan, I was just